we kick off, I'd like to acknowledge that this panel is being held on stolen land. I would like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of Nam, the Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present, and echo that sovereignty was never ceded, and this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Welcome to Just Build It, turning your game dev hobby into a full-time gig. We're here to chat all about Broadside Games' shift from working on their game just a little bit on the side, all the way to working full-time on it. What's that game? Bears in Space. Who is Broadside Games? Them. I'll let them introduce themselves, starting with you.
How you doing? My name's Dan. I did all the audio, sound design, and composition on the game.
Hey, I'm Garth. I'm a lead programmer, lead animator.
Hello. I'm John. I did the lead design and lead artist, I guess.
Awesome, and I'm Ruby, former games journalist and now co-host, producer, and podcaster at Back Pocket. Before we kick off with questions, why don't we check out the game's newest trailer?
Captain's Blog, Stardate Wednesday, location, space. An accident has befallen your scientific spaceship, and you, spacetronaut Maxwell Adams, have had your DNA merge with that of Bertana, the she-bear. Now united as one, they embark on a heroic journey to beat the odds with your bare hands. I don't get paid enough for this. To vanquish a robotic menace and forge their path to freedom. Let the chaos unfold. Let the bullets fly. No matter the odds stacked against us, it's us versus the machines.
Yes, sick. And now I've got a few questions to kind of set this whole thing in motion, and then I'll look to you, the girl reading this, for some audience questions. If you think of something to ask down the line, write it down and save it for the end, and then you'll just line up here where the microphone is. So, first things first, what brought your studio together?
Geez, well, when we were working in retail, John and I worked together, and we used to film things on the weekend together. I studied film at QUT, so we were always looking to sort of experiment with film, and yeah, it's just we all sort of knew each other. John and Dan already knew each other from the previous experiences.
Used to play in a band.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we started off, yeah, we've always done sort of creative things together, creative writing, filming, and yeah, I guess we just decided we wanted to make games instead, so.
Yeah, we sort of just grew up, trying to make games all the time. Garth would make some maps in Unreal Tournament. I used to make some awful stuff in Flash. I don't know if anyone remembers Flash, but like that was sort of where I started, I guess, and yeah, it was just a natural progression for us, I think.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, speaking of stuff you've worked on before, what do you think you've kind of learned from working together previously, but also working on other projects that you've kind of taken with you to Bears in Space?
I mean, like, we all want to do that sort of creative, or just work in a creative environment, and as Garth was saying, like, we used to film just silly skits with each other all the time, so this was sort of that next sort of natural progression for that. As far as stuff learned, like, I mean, this is myself and Garth's first game we've ever worked on, so we had no prior experience in game development before this. Just sort of self-taught ourselves and figured out what we wanted to do and go from there.
Yeah, so I think, so before this I was the lead artist on The Forgotten City, and then before that I worked on Hand of Fate 2. And I think the biggest sort of takeaway, well, the easiest sort of transition for us is because we knew each other for so long. You sort of just have that unspoken vision. We're all aligned with the humor and our goals, and it made it a lot easier. But yeah, it's hard to sort of say, I guess.
What was the question again?
It's just like looking at what you previously worked on, right? And like how that kind of transferred to what you're working on in Bears in Space.
Yeah, so I think it's the lessons we learned is just keep iterating, iterate fast. You know, and I think like this game has taken us about 6 years to make. The first 4 years was part-time, working weekends, and then we got a publishing deal, and then we managed to do like full-time for 2 years. It's just about working fast and being honest with each other. You know, if something's not fun, you need to stamp it out real quick. And I think, you know, just being, if you respect each other, then you can be truthful with each other. You don't have to beat around the bush. You know, if something isn't working, you just gotta let each other know.
Yeah, I think to echo what John said, like really, with a team as small as ours, it's really important that the vision aligns with all of yous. That's what I would say I've learned.
Yeah, awesome. And what's Bears in Space about? We should probably get to that like as soon as possible.
So it's a retro-futuristic bullet hell first-person adventure. So it's sort of, what we're aiming for is like a 90s cartoon wrapped up in a shooter. So it's just an absurd, zany, fun time. So I think you saw it in the trailer. You've had your DNA merged with the she-bear Tana, and anytime you come across honey, you know, the primal rage comes out and bear form takes over, and then it's, you know, rip and paw. So it's, yeah, just an absurd, goofy time. You know, the game doesn't take itself seriously, but we seriously made the game as good as we can, so.
And we're really looking to always surprise the player, keep them interested, and just make them wonder, like, you know, what the hell's going to happen next. And I think we've done a decent job of that.
And hopefully you've all got to have a play of it on the floor this weekend.
I was about to say, oh, you can go and play it after, but when does this thing end? Like half an hour after this. Sorry. But where did the initial idea for Bears in Space come from?
Well, that comes back to when we were filming things. We were trying to write a series, so like a Star Trek inspired like sci-fi thing.
Has anyone seen Dark Place? Garth Marenghi's Dark Place? We were trying to do that, but sci-fi. That was the original idea.
Yeah, but then at the same time we were transitioning into making games as well, and we were just making sort of a generic like sci-fi shooter. Yeah, we thought why not combine the ideas. It wasn't always as stupid as it is now. It sort of gradually became very silly.
Yeah, I think just over time, like ideas always evolve. So, yeah, I think there's no romantic starting point. It just was a goofy idea and it stuck around, and here it is.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what's the development process kind of been like thus far?
Stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been alright. It's yeah, geez, it's as we're making it, we're sort of just thinking of like silly ideas, and you know, no idea is a bad idea. Even if we have an idea that everybody else thinks is awful, we always write it down just in case. And yeah, you revisit them with a new eye, a fresh perspective.
As Joe was sort of saying before, like we've worked on other stuff, like the passion projects that we had, so we all have our thoughts pretty much aligned. So everyone sort of knows before you say it if it's a bad idea. So, I mean, we've got a Trello for rejected, horrible, awful ideas that I think some of them end up getting revived and put in the game as well because they weren't that awful, like googly eyes on everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the hardest things was, so it's a humorous game with lots of silly jokes. You need to define and figure out whether or not it's funny because you know each other and it's only funny within that context, or if it's funny and it stands on its own. And I think that's probably our biggest hurdle. We had to really rip out some of the jokes that only us would have enjoyed.
But at the same time as well, like we were writing all this stuff to make each other laugh. Like I think that's sort of the core of it, and hopefully that shows through. Like it's sort of made with love, and it's goofy.
In your eyes, what's the worst idea you've had, and is it in the game?
I would say we've got a character called JC McMinty. He's actually evolved into like the save points, like JC saves. But yeah, that just came from, you know, what if you finish a bot and then a robot? What if you finish a battle and then a robot comes out and gives you a thumbs up and it's like, yeah, good work.
Flicks you a mint.
Yeah,
the mint kills you. I think that was the original idea.
And we shelved it for ages, and then I thought it was such a bad idea that I maliciously put it in the game. I was like, this is how bad your idea is.
We have a temple dedicated to the rubber gods, Bouncetus, and so that temple, you actually bounce the entire way. It was an awful idea, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's still in.
Is an awful idea. Wow,
Yeah.
kidding. But your team was also lucky enough to be a recipient of some extra funding through grants. How much did that help when it came to development? And also, what advice would you give to people pitching for grants, like the mega grants and funding through the government?
Yeah, so, I mean, they were vital because it allowed us to go from like a hobby project to giving us a bit of freedom to sort of step away from the retail jobs. But it's a huge confidence boost because it means you're not, like, what you're making is worth something to, I mean, it's always worth something to you, but, getting that outside validation is important. I think if you're going to apply for grants and other things as well, it's always handy to sort of go the step beyond. So for us, when we applied, what we had the pitch deck, we had a shortened down version. We had a trailer that we'd made, we had gameplay video, and we had a vertical slice that about 5 to 10 minutes is what we sort of aimed for. And it needed to just convey the idea of the game as quickly as possible. So it had, some humor, a bunch of guns for us, just some fast-paced action. But you really want to have every chance possible to sort of get your idea across. And so so you want to have like stepping stones. So I need a drink and it's really cold as well. So you want to have your gameplay loop for those people that have the time to get in and play it. And then you want to have those people that are interested in the idea. And so having a short little clip of it, they can see it and they can hand that off and then, get the ball rolling. So yeah, just having every avenue possible covered sort of increases your odds of getting noticed. And then, I think, talk to if mega grants specifically, like talk to your Unreal evangelist for the areas that you're in. And then I think finally just getting the name out there too, like putting your game on like Twitter or X or whatever it is. Reddit, Imager worked really well for us. Just getting the exposure and the awareness there too, to say, this is what we're making, and see that these people here think it's good and they're enjoying it. It's a bit of a double-edged sword because if you show it too early, it can be stolen. Just keep that in mind. So don't show everything, but definitely hit everything running. Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, huge. And you've also had the opportunity of getting yourselves a publisher by Ravenscourt a la Play On. What was that process like? Did you go to them or did they go to you? How was it?
Again, it started with like a decent vertical slice. I think we approached them and then sort of didn't hear anything from them for ages. And then so just out of the blue, got an email from one of the guys there that really liked it, and he sort of fought internally for our project. But yeah, again, you just got to get out there, and you got to be able to show that you can make what you're saying that you can make. And again, have a good pitch deck, have a good vertical slice. Yeah,
so there's a couple of extra things there. So it was a meet to match is where we did it. So it was for GDC. It was when the old Rona was hitting, so it made it a lot easier for us because there's no way we were going to be able to get there. So, and you can still take meetings online. And it was a bit awkward because when we actually pitched it, it was like one of our first pitches. And I gave the spiel, and I didn't know I could screen share because I was such a rookie. And then after I'd finished talking, he screen shared his pitch deck on the publisher, and it made me look like a fool. But it was all good. It was all good. But something to keep in mind is that when you're pitching to someone, that person then becomes your champion within that company. So, like doing those things where you've got a solid pitch deck that's easily readable. So with our pitch deck, we did speak to a lot of people, and they sort of suggested having it dot point heavy with words, but we really went out of our way to make it like pleasing to the eye. So we took full renders of things and made it as vibrant as we could to sort of get our idea across. So we sort of lived by the whole show don't tell as much as possible. So like I strongly suggest that because once again, that person is your representative in the company. So if you can give them everything they need and everything looks as good as it can, you got the pitch deck, you got the small videos, you got the vertical slice, just put it forward, and easily they can just hand that to the next person and say, we believe in this game, here's that thing. So
I think as well, especially if you've got a stylized game, putting that forward in the pitch deck, as John was saying, and I think our weapons page, when we were saying, crazy upgradable weapons, we tried to cram as many of the weapons, like renders of the weapons from the game, onto that same page, just to push it across that stylization point and show that So yeah, we're trying to make the game, but we know what we want. Like we've got the vision, we know what we want to go for, and we know what we want to achieve. I think that's pretty important to get that point across. So it's not just you saying, yeah, I think I can do it. Like, give me some money.
Yeah, have confidence and only pitch one game. Don't say, yeah, we're sort of thinking on, like, maybe we'll do this or do this. Like, there's one project, and that's it.
Yeah, and you were talking about the vertical slice. How long would you say it takes to kind of have a good, solid vertical slice to show to a publisher?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, as long as it takes, I suppose.
Yeah, it's up to you and your style. I think first impressions matter, so don't rush it.
I think we made our vertical slice while we're both working full-time jobs. So doing it on the weekends and after work.
Yeah, so I think like you'll have your vertical slice when you get funded. You'll have a milestone where you have to deliver that. So it's sort of like a teaser. Like it's not that we call it vertical slice, but it sort of shows everything, but it doesn't need to be like the ultimate endpoint for the game. So just as long as it sort of conveys the idea across, like 5 to 10 minutes max, like just drive it home as quick as you can.
Yeah, awesome. And other than the obvious note of time, how much do you think the development process kind of evolved with the addition of a publisher?
It
Forced
evolved
us
with
to
cash.
sorry. I was gonna say it forced us to actually make the game. So prior to that, like I think we had maybe 3 or 4 levels, and of that, only 2 of them are still in the game. Like the other ones ended up just getting ditched entirely. But once we had that publisher and we had those milestones to meet, it's like, all right, well, we've got to get this done. Like there's no, oh, what if I tweak this? What if I do that? It's like you have to actually make the game and get through the entire process. So I think that really pushes it. It turns into something where it's not just, I hope this works out. It's like you're really pushing forward with the game. But on that as well, like none of us really went into this, hoping it'd work out. Like obviously, we didn't think it was a sure thing, but we went in with the intention that this is what we want to do. Like this is going to be the career change. This isn't just, hoping for the best. Like go into it with that intention instead of just, I guess, I don't know how to say that.
Well, I mean, one way or another, we're making the game.
Yeah.
And just having a publisher just made it just a little bit easier. And then we can sort of set the scopes a little bit higher as well in terms of quality and content.
Yeah, so it took 6 years instead of 12, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is when you do sign and whatnot, write down everything that you have to submit for each milestone, put it on a big whiteboard. It's really easy to sort of have things creep up. And it sounds obvious, but just, yeah, it's really good to just have it visible for everyone all the time and, yeah, see it approaching.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of mentioned like it would have taken 12 years instead of 6. Was there ever kind of a plan for you to self-publish, or was the goal to always try and get a publisher?
Yeah, geez.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely trying for a publisher. If we were going to do it ourselves, it'd just be like a much smaller scope. Wouldn't be what it is now. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to work within your limitations. It's, you can, yeah, there's some games that are still, some big games out there that haven't come out yet, but space one.
Oh, Star Citizen, yeah.
Man, I want to play that game so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but you got to work to limitations. So if you don't have publishing, you're limited scope and limited time, you have to just work to that. So I think one way to sort of do it is, like the vertical slice, record how long it takes to get to that fidelity, and all those features, and then that's your base understanding of how long it's going to take to make the rest of the game. So
What are those things called? Gantt charts? Gantt charts are really useful. They
really boring to make.
Yeah, but as long as you know, how much each asset or animation or level is going to make, and you can lay them all out. That's a good way of organising it.
Yeah, huge. And kind of going back into development, in the past, you said it was 6 years to develop, is that correct?
6 years so far, yeah.
So far? Great. 6+ years.
Yeah.
What has the kind of, what have been, I guess, the most challenging parts of that development process?
So the biggest thing for us was probably when you first sign. Well, for us in particular, it took about a year to get the money from signing, and there's a period of time where you've got to work towards that milestone, and there's no money coming in until until all the deals sort of wrapped up, because big companies they've got their own pay cycles, so it's something to sort of consider. So we sort of had to ramp up and just use our own money to sort of work full time, But apart from that, I think you're just having confidence to just steamroll ahead. I mean, I think it's that realization that when there's no backing, you're sort of just making it for yourself. But then when you do sign that deal, all of a sudden it just becomes more real, and you just gotta. There's more weight behind it all, and you just got to soldier on, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges for me personally was like learning on the job. Like, because we're such a small dev team, we've all sort of had to become multidisciplinary, and so like I had to learn animation out of necessity for an animator, and there's the artist curse of you're always getting better, so you waste time learning and making animations, and you're going to waste time going back and reanimating because you've become so much better. So yeah, just the amount of learning that goes on, especially if you're just sort of fresh in the industry.
And I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but this is the team. So
Yeah,
core team of 3. So it's not. Yeah, we had to learn a whole bunch of stuff on the fly.
Yeah.
And what was that like, kind of learning things from scratch?
I mean, it's always fun. It's fun when you're doing arty stuff. Like animation's been pretty cool to learn. But yeah.
I guess even on the flip side of that, like myself doing the audio and all the composition, like I learnt to code so that I could put the music in the way I wanted, which then led to me being able to do minor enemy design, minor enemy coding, minor weapon coding, like just little things that sort of help the game move along a bit more. But I guess just don't limit yourself to what you think you can do, especially in a dev team, in an indie dev team like this. Like, it's fun. Like, learn other stuff. Like, push your boundaries on what you want to do, and it helps everything. Like, the way that I started approaching the way that I was writing music completely changed once I learned how to code and put the music in the way I wanted to. It's like, all right, well, go back to the drawing board, rewrite everything in a different way so I can put it in the way that I wanted it to be in. And yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things is just do the stuff you want to do and then just learn what else you need to do to make it happen.
Yeah, development is always in a constant state of learning. Like, even if I'm in the art side, so there's always new tools coming out, new workflows. Like, if at any point you're not learning, you're falling behind. So it's just the way it is.
And you guys did mention that you worked in film before. How many of the skills that kind of come from working on films and stuff are transferable to game development?
I guess when you're making in-game cinematics, you use some of the film techniques there. Like Unreal's got a pretty decent, as annoying as it is to use, sequencer like program, and you can make like film quality cinematics, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I suppose that would be where the film transfers with the games.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. Not much else transfers.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I suppose writing as well. Like because we've written the game on the fly, basically. We write sub-stories and like little side things that happen.
We're making goofy films and we're making goofy games. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And kind of now jumping back to the publisher questions, was the kind of developer-publisher relationship what you expected?
It's been awesome. They've let us do what we want.
Yeah.
They've supported it every step of the way. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it always turns out this way, but we've had just unlimited creative freedom when we probably shouldn't have. I'm sure we haven't made the best decisions.
Were there ever any like prior worries that you wouldn't get all that creative freedom? And in that case, what would you have done?
If that was what, sorry?
In that case of not having as much creative freedom as you've had, what would you have done?
Well,
I think we would have tried to push for it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you just make it and don't tell them.
Yeah.
No, it's been really good. It's then because we had that vertical slice and we pushed everything forward that we wanted to do. They knew from the get-go.
They knew what they were getting into.
Yeah. It's just there was a few times when things were all grey box still, and we're saying, no, this is going to be this goofy thing. Like, trust us, it'll look like this eventually. But I feel like we sort of got there in the end.
And this is maybe just pure curiosity, but you did say that you were working not full-time on the game at one point. What were you doing instead exactly, all of you?
I was working at cash converters.
Awesome.
Just in retail. Worked there for like 10 years and then started learning game development on the side. And then because I'd worked at the company for so long, they were pretty crazy and let me drop down to like part-time work when we got an Epic Mega Grant. So I was able to split my time between working retail and working the game, and then we got the deal, and I was able to just ditch retail altogether, and now I'm a game developer.
I think I was still working at the bank when you guys first sort of said you're working on the game, I should come do it. So, and I hated that job so much. I was looking for any out I could. So, got out of that, worked in a studio, and then I think I was working at a furniture store just to pay the bills for a little while as well. So, you just sort of, I guess the good thing about that was you work in a job that you don't really want to be in, and that's sort of the motivation to make the game dev work. You know, like you're pushing yourself because it's like, that's the alternative. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I was working on Forgotten City, and then like when my contract and we launched that, it sort of ended as the money came in for this game. It was like perfect timing, but I was working in the mornings before work. I would work on bears, and then on the weekends I'd work, so it was just like having two jobs. But it was good because if anyone's played the Forgotten City, like it's an ancient Roman, more serious game, and then I got to come and make the most stupid thing I could in bears. So it was like having two separate things. It was just fun. So.
What was it like working on two completely different games, like having one quite serious one and then a very stupid one after?
Well, it was fresh. Like it didn't feel like a drag because like I loved working on Forgotten City. Like I'm really proud of that game, and then get to sort of lead the direction on this one with the art and the goofiness, and it was just fresh. And then you come up with different ideas that could sort of cross over between each on the fly. But yeah, it was just good fun. Really enjoyed it.
Totally. And how much do you think working at the bank prepared you for game development?
Not at all.
Yeah, and so kind of coming back, what have been some of your favorite parts of working on Bears in Space, and maybe some of your least favorite parts of working on Bears in Space as well?
One of my favorite parts has been learning the new skills like animation. I didn't think I'd ever get into 3D animation, but I did now, and I think I'm okay at it. So it's sort of a little bit of sense of pride to get a new skill.
And your least favorite?
Oh, I don't know, the bugs.
Bugs.
There's always bugs.
Stop programming.
Yeah.
Stop programming the bugs. For me, like I've always loved writing music. Played in bands, like multiple bands over the years, but with this being able to just have full creative freedom, that's been the best part for sure. Like just being able to write what I want to write and make sure it sort of fits and carries the game the way it should. Like it's been awesome. I haven't really had a least favorite part though. I've pretty much liked the entire development process.
You like the bugs?
I love the bugs. It's my favorite part of it.
Yeah, so I worked in retail too, so I know what it's like not to work in games. So yeah, the best day in retail is worse than the worst day in making games. So I think you sort of get that appreciation. Then you just, yeah. I mean, there's frustrating times, and times you got to do a couple of extra hours than you wanna, but like it rules. Like it's just if you can get into game dev.
And were there any bugs in your vertical slice? Because I feel like that's kind of a worry for a lot of developers, that they do kind of have to make this perfect product before they show it off to a publisher.
Nah, you're never going to escape them, unfortunately. I mean, the demo we're showing off's full of bugs. So yeah, it's really like, if you're testing internally, you're just playing the way it's designed to play, and you're never going to find bugs. But then as soon as you put it in someone else's hands, like the public's hands, and they start playing it just all these crazy ways, they come out, and you're just never gonna, no game's ever gonna launch perfect. And I think a publisher's gonna know that like a vertical slice is not a fully polished bit of game either.
I think as long as the vertical slice is playable from start to finish, like you've just got to get that representation across. So I don't think there was any game-stopping bugs in it, but it was probably riddled with minor ones.
I mean, yeah, you want to avoid having like showstoppers. Yeah. But
try your best.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just don't be too precious of your work. Like you got to get it out there. You got to get feedback. I mean, if anyone in here is doing the art path, like I know how hard it is to show people your art, but you've just got to get over that fear. Like, and you need feedback, and you need to find people who will be honest with you. You know, if you're posting up any of your work and all you're hearing back is it's good, then it's not good. Like you need to find someone who's honest with you, and it's hard. It's harder than you think to find people to give you honest feedback. But try anyway.
And as well, you did mention that the publishing deal did come from Meet to Match, at GDC, and as somebody who also uses Meet to Match, a big part of it is also talking to other developers and just other people in the industry. Talking to other people in the industry and such, how much did that kind of help you with the, I guess, evolution of Bears in Space?
Was that talking with people in the industry, how
Yeah,
that helps?
just as a whole. Yeah, did it help you?
Oh yeah, I mean, you always definitely try and keep in touch with people in the industry. If you got local game dev meetups, always do that, because we would always go to those, and we'd take a laptop with the build of the game on it, and you get people to play it. And game devs do normally give you sort of honest feedback. They like finding bugs, really. They take a pride in.
And don't be scared to reach out to others. Like, I think all of us have sort of been in the same spot at some point, right? And, I'm sure there's bad, angry devs out there somewhere, but we haven't met them yet, so.
Yeah, and with, as well, the grants that you got, because I know that with, for example, Cult of the Lamb, them getting a grant from Vic Screen really helped them get their vertical slice in front of Devolver Digital. How much did those grants help you get your vertical slice in front of Ravenscourt and Play On?
Well, the Australian grants we didn't get till we didn't even get a grant per se from the Australian government yet. More
You
of
got the offset, right?
Yeah, tax offset sort of thing. But
Screen Queensland.
Screen Queensland. Yeah, sorry. I think the grants are better down here, but in Queensland they're still good. But
Well, they just took it back off us, thanks.
hey,
We love you, Screen Queensland. No.
yeah.
It all helps. It's one of the things Nick from Forgotten City would used to say is like, game dev is a lot like a Mario level where the map is constantly moving and you're trying to jump and stay afloat. So like every bit of grant money you can get is important. So and don't be. I guess you can sort of have that aura about yourself where you want to do it yourself. You won't ask for help, but like the grants are there, apply for them. Don't be silly.
But you've got your local grants as well, like I'm sure Screen Melbourne. Screen Victoria, sorry, and then you can go to Screen Australia as well. They just had a round of decent grants that they've announced. So I think they're getting better in Australia. I think politicians are finally realising the games industry is pretty decent and can make a bit of money, so they're more willing to swing money to game devs.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you did get those external grants, not the government ones, but you've also been working on the game for quite a while. Do you think the environment of game development in Australia has kind of gotten better with, these funding options available from the government?
Yeah, I think like throughout the process, we've sort of seen it get better as well. As Garth was just sort of saying, like, it's making money, so it's talking their language, so that it's becoming more common now, which is great to see. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of pointers would you have for people wanting to kind of start the process of contacting publishers? Because it can be a pretty daunting thing to do.
Prepare to get rejected and ghosted, but you just got to do it. And just like I said earlier on, you just have all those pieces ready to go. Just put your best foot forward. But realize that no today doesn't mean no tomorrow. So, because a lot of publishers, like they'll have, they're sort of looking to fill out their portfolio, and it might not be the right fit today, but 6 months of progress. And if you submit something new and you can show that it's improving, or it might be radically better with a bit of time, try again. But there's a lot of publishers out there too. I mean, and the good thing is when you do hear back from publishers, not all of them because people are busy, but you can oftentimes get some feedback that's real vital and will help you sort of apply in your next time. But
If you get
just don't give a heart. Like it's brutal, but you just got to do it.
and if you can afford a lawyer, definitely have like a game dev specific lawyer look over any contracts so you don't get screwed.
And that's any business thing. Have a good lawyer.
Always have a lawyer.
Yeah.
It's a really important piece of advice, actually.
I mean, it's the unfortunate, boring part of game dev is all the business stuff. But you gotta do it right from the start.
And contracts are written in very like technical jargon that is sort of supposed to confuse the layman. So like if we were reading a contract, we'd have no idea what we're looking at. So that's why we've got a lawyer.
Yeah, totally. And sorry, pardon me. Oh my God, sorry, I lost my train of thought. That's on me, I'm being honest. So I think when it comes, because you're quite a small team, and you did mention before, like, it's okay to ask for help and to reach out to people. I think there is kind of this look at the sole developer and the small group of developers working on something as much as they can. There's the expectation that it is going to be a really hard slog and it's going to be done in a not so healthy way in order to get the best result. So how did you kind of go about doing it in, I guess, the best way possible health-wise?
So yeah, it will be hard.
Yeah.
There's no dodging it. You have to do the hours, and don't do it in a silly way. But like I play as much baseball as I can. So does Garth, and Dan does a whole bunch of kung fu. It's important to have hobbies and interests outside of video games, which is like good for like your body and staying healthy, but also good mentally too. To have like an activity where you can just switch off and not think about game dev. You don't have to go to the gym, but you're just going for a 20-minute walk is really important.
Yeah, I try and walk every day, but yeah, I mean, proper planning can sort of mitigate crunch. Like we've definitely had some milestones where we've had to just work a week straight of 13, 14, 15-hour days just to get it done. And maybe if we planned better, we wouldn't have had to crunch so badly.
But we also just take a whole bunch of time off after that, so it's...
Yeah.
And it's a learning experience too. Like, you just make sure you don't do it next time. I guess,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, it's a hard gig, but it's worth it. It's like the other thing too is like my favorite thing in the world is making games. So it's hard to pull yourself away from it sometimes. So realizing that you've been sitting there for so long, I recommend standing desks.
Yeah, standing desks rule. And walking.
Do you think, this is a loaded question, do you think any one of you would have been able to work on this project yourself, or do you think you all kind of bring in something very unique that makes the game work? Because you did all self-teach yourself these skills.
Yeah, what was the first part of that question, sorry?
Sorry, do you think you would have been able to work on this project yourself, considering you did all teach yourselves these skills, or do you think you bring something unique?
Coding is really boring to me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think one of the most important things, that's sort of kept this game going, is that we all want it to succeed. Like if you're making something by yourself, there's no accountability and there's no, like, I don't know, like when we're making things, like I'm putting things in and I want to impress the team with what I'm doing, so I put in the effort. And like if I slack off, or if I try and take a couple of days off or something, then everybody suffers. So I definitely wouldn't want to do it by myself.
yeah, and I think we sort of got lucky that all three of us just had an interest in a different discipline, and it all aligned really nicely. And then we sort of could fill the gaps by learning outside of our area. So, yeah.
And when it came to development, sorry, am I right in saying that you were kind of learning over time while you were making it as well?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
What things did you kind of run into that were, fatal, hiccups, right? Fatal hiccups that you kind of took as a learning experience?
Don't upgrade the engine before a milestone.
Yeah. Yeah, Unreal Engine updates quite regularly, and they do always tease you with these cool new features that are going to make your life so much easier. And then, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's not that bad. Sometimes it's like a day's worth of screwing around to fix all the things that are broken. But yeah, it's definitely recommended not to upgrade too often. That's probably one of the worst things that's happened.
Yeah, I think, just advancing tech. One of the things that, because we upgraded to Unreal 5, which has been awesome, awesome performance boosts. But so I set out to make art originally very optimized forward, because fast-paced shooter need to have good frame rates. And then a little thing called nanite came along, and then it made all of these optimized meshes not as optimized anymore. So yeah, just tech is always changing, and brace for it.
Absolutely. And when it comes to kind of feedback, because of course, you're going to get feedback from your publisher, but being at events like this and getting like constructive criticism, how helpful is that when it comes to the final product?
It's the most helpful. There's nothing better than like standing behind someone playing the game and then watching what they do and then realizing how poorly you've designed something.
Like when you see the same, I wouldn't call it a mistake, but the same thing happen like over and over again, it's like, all right, that's what we need to do. We need another sign there to point them in the right direction or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's awesome. That's like definitely the best sort of feedback. I think like the best feedback you can get is people playing the game, recording themselves, and then watching through the footage of them playing it. Like, because you're not always going to have an opportunity like at PAX to show your game and watch people there. And try to get to as many of those as possible, like any sort of game dev nights where you can show the game to the public to have a go of it. But if you ever get anyone playtesting, just ask them to video their entire playthrough and just watch what they do. Because like you know your game better than anyone else, right? Like you can play it better than anyone else. It's something that you've done. So you're not going to see these little things that people will just pick up on, or they won't pick up on it. They'll just do it, and you just, all right, cool. I need to fix that.
Yeah, there's one thing I like to call the magic pixel problem. So if you're trying to get feedback and there's a broken pixel on your screen, everyone will report on that broken pixel, and no one will report on any other bug they find. So when you are looking for good and solid feedback, you just need to make sure all the obvious things are fixed first. Even like you'd have gray boxes or fluoro pink cubes that you'd think everyone would know a placeholder. That's all they will focus on. So keep that in mind.
And when it came to, once again, showing it to a publisher, did you have many people play test it before that happened?
Yeah, just as many as you can.
Yeah, I think we took it to like game dev meetups, and you buy them a beer and watch them play the game.
And what are game dev meetups like in Queensland?
They're pretty good. Yeah, there's a decent decent game dev community in Queensland. It's always somebody new at the meetups, and we're all we're all nerds. They're all kind of shy, but you have a couple of beers and you're always keen to talk.
I think as well, like, not just going to one single type of meetup, like there's the Brisbane Game Dev meetup, like the general one that we'd go to, and then there was like an Unreal Engine specific meetup we'd go to. So try and search out as many of those opportunities as you can. Like, don't just go to the one that you know works. Like, there's plenty out there.
Yeah, huge. And with today, with PAX, and maybe yesterday and also the day before, what has been the most fascinating feedback that you've got, or maybe even the worst?
People like the game. That's
Yeah, we're surprised.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen a lot of people just walk past big giant arrows that say, main path this way, and then they're like jumping at the arrow, like trying to jump over something. It's like, that's surprising to me. I thought it was obvious, but maybe not.
Yeah, and you mentioned Flash as well. So what engine is Best in Space made with?
It's Unreal 5.2.
Cool. So, Flash, Unreal Engine 5.2. What would you say are the kind of biggest differences, and how much did you learn from Flash to take into Unreal Engine 5.2?
We got pretty good at motion tweening in Flash.
Yeah.
Not sure if Unreal is up to that level.
Yeah. I mean, Flash is more animation based. You make funny like stickmen fights. Yeah. It's always cool.
And what's your favorite part of the game? I know it's a simple one, but like, there's got to be like your baby somewhere, right?
I think for me, I've got a light gun section that's sort of like a Virtua Cop Time Crisis, and it's sort of like, it comes out of nowhere. It really surprises you. And I put a lot of effort into that one, so I think that's my favorite part.
It's a good question.
I'm going to go with Chicken Town. There's chickens that have escaped for the last time, and you get handed a shotgun to hunt them down. And then by slaughtering these robot chickens, it summons Beelzecluck, the demon chicken. And then you battle this boss, and you get to keep the super shotgun. and that's how you get it. I think that's probably my favorite bit.
Yeah.
I think I can't really say it without spoiling a big section of the game. There's a particular boss fight at the end of a level called the Rolling Bot, which is our homage to the Running Man. And the end fight there is just Garth totally outdid himself. Like even playtesting it, every time I play it, I was like, man, I love this boss fight. I just want to play this on repeat over and over.
Can it be any more stupid?
It's very, very stupid, but yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. We might open up for questions. We've probably got time for like 3 to 5. If you do have questions, if you want to just come down here and come to the microphone, that'd be awesome. How are we feeling? There we go.
I'm happy to sit in silence as well.
We'll trade it for an awkward silence.
Yeah.
Still silent meditation led by Garth.
Yeah.
Hi, how you going? Oh, can
Oh,
we
no,
get this
can't
mic
hear
in
him.
here?
Testing.
There
that's
we
better.
go.
Hi. You said the publisher gave you a bunch of money up front. What are they getting in return after the game's out?
Sweet game.
I mean, they make money off the game as well, of course. So you got your revenue split. I guess they estimated that they would sell enough copies to recoup their investment.
And make a profit.
Yeah, and make a profit.
Does your agreement affect anything past the initial release of the game? Any DLC or future work?
Hasn't been decided yet.
But that sort of deal is a separate one from the initial deal. So we created a contract for a set product, and then that's all the monetary exchanges.
But just be aware that you agree to whatever you sign. So your whatever contract you have will be for your game. So that's where that lawyer comes in.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
No
Great
worries, thank you.
question. Thank you so much.
No, he's got notes.
Hey, you kind of touched on it before, but so when you can go for grants before you go for the publisher deal, right? So do you still, if not like a full vertical slice, what do you need to bring to the table to win a grant, basically?
It'll depend on the grant. So they'll have exactly what they're looking for, and just make sure you deliver exactly what they're looking for.
Like for instance, the Queensland game grants currently, they've got separate grants for helping you develop a prototype, helping you develop a vertical slice, helping you develop a beta of the game, I think. So they've got like different levels of grants. So depending on how much of the game you have made, you could apply for whatever one. I'm not sure what the grants are like down here though.
Yeah, but it still applies. Like just have your vertical slice ready to go. Have a trailer gameplay, and if whatever your key hook is, make sure it's easily shown, and have that ready to go. Because it'll be the same everywhere. Someone will be a champion for you and your game on the inside, and they need easy access to it all. Yeah. But just make sure. Like another thing too is find other studios that have got that grant and ask what they did, and get some feedback on it because they're all different.
Yeah, definitely do that.
And I think even like some of the people like working in Screen Queensland, we were able to approach them directly and ask them. It's like just clarification questions. Like we didn't quite understand what one of the obligations was, or one of the requirements was. So we were able to ask them directly and sort of start building that relationship with them as well.
That's why going to the game dev meetups is good as well, because like we'd meet Screen Queensland workers at game dev meetups, and you can sort of get like the real McCoy like answer from them.
So we can only really talk about Screen Queensland, but they're really good people to work with. So.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool, thank you.
Great question. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for the talk. It was really insightful. Just wanted to ask, because I know with a lot of bigger AAA games, they have a clear hierarchy in terms of like pre-production, production, post-production, like the pipeline. But with a smaller production team, with each of you wearing multiple different hats, how do you kind of manage like the workflow or the pipeline of creating a game?
Yeah, that's a good question.
As best you can is sort of the answer.
Yeah, so
Or do you have any tools that you use? To
so because we all have our own set sort of disciplines, there's no real overlap. That's where that Gantt chart comes in. A flow chart, have you used them before? Only recently, I suppose, when I started this game. But basically, what you want to do is just, you'll set out everything that you want to achieve in that milestone, and then you figure out the hours it will take per person. And then, if we got a new enemy, I'll need to concept it up. Garth will have to prototype it up. We'll have to get some sounds, and we'll need to work it so that we're all working at the same time and we're not waiting for each other. And so that sort of happens in a bigger studio because you've got so many moving parts. But it's equally important in a small team too, because like it's a waste of time, money, and everything if we're all just waiting for each other. But the other thing too, the benefit is we're very autonomous and we're on the same page with the vision, so we can always find something else to work on, and there's always something that's coming up or needs polish. So, but yeah, Gantt charts, boring Gantt charts, but they're important.
Yeah.
Good question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries.
Hi, so do you find that, so with the three of you, do you see over the process where you might need to hire someone else or outsource, or what's the publisher do versus like legal or QA and all that kind of stuff? So
the publisher has their own internal QA. They're taking care of marketing. They set this up for us. Got the sweet mascot. I don't know if anyone saw it. It's a big bear. But yeah, we've brought on some outside help, so we need some help with VFX at the start. We got some UI and 2D art. But yeah, I mean, moving forward will be, I think, personally, for the good of the industry, if you succeed, you should try and bring on more people and grow the team. I'd love to bring on junior artists and train them up and help grow the industry as a whole. Like that's sort of the vision. We want to double the team every time we take on a new game. So that's the grand plan. Whether or not we succeed, we better. But yeah, that's the goal anyway.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the talk. I have a question that's like how does your creative process work? Do you have the idea for the game at the start, or did it sort of evolve into what it is right now?
I mean, it was almost a Doom clone at the very start. We were looking at some old footage the other day of it, and it's just changed so much. So I think still keep the idea of what you want to make, but just always be open to like changing, the feel of it and getting it more towards, I guess, like a fun, playable game.
Yeah, so I'd say in a non-douchey way, I probably came up with like most of like the level ideas and stuff like that. But because we're so collaborative, there's not a single idea that wasn't touched and modified by any of us. And the same thing, anytime an idea, unless it's a secret thing that we haven't found that we put in just to make each other laugh or whatever. But one thing that I do, and I stole it from Tim Schafer, is free writing. So I used to, when we were still developing, the story and what was happening in the game, I would wake up early in the morning, just put some music on and then pen to paper for 20 minutes, and I would just keep writing for that 20 minutes. Some days you would just come up with nothing. Like it would just be scribbles and writing how tired you are or something. But some days you'll just come up with some cool jokes and some cool ideas. But just getting in that routine of just getting up in the morning, just writing for that set period of time is sort of what got me through blocks and come up with ideas. So I'd recommend that. If we're talking about like the artistic side of things, I would just draw loose shapes is sort of how I would come up with the enemy ideas, just smashing shapes together, thumbnails, and then when we finally got funded, we were able to bring on some really cool concept artists that took my awful, awful drawings and made them better. So I can do 3D art, but I can't draw.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yep.
You mentioned that you went through your whole funding situation with the publisher. Why didn't you apply something like Kickstarter or like a crowdfunding situation over a publisher like that?
I suppose that's an option, but yeah, like the early access route we could have gone as well. But I think it didn't get to that point that we needed to do that. Like we sort of had built the vertical slice, and we were pretty set on sort of getting ourselves fully published. But yeah, that's definitely is an option along the way as well.
Kickstarter and those sorts of things require huge amounts of resources, like time. You have to spend so much time in marketing, and marketing is one of our weak points, and that's why we wanted to sign with the publisher so that we could just focus on making that game. And I think the renaissance of Kickstarter is well and truly over. I mean, there's so many products up there now, and very few get funded. And when we really break down how much a game actually costs, it's not 50 grand.
Yeah.
And there's it's just something that we couldn't have done. So, yeah, the publisher route was the right one for us.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
And I kind of have a question as well, kind of based around this. It's basic but also broad. What exactly does the publisher do for you?
Well, yeah, they handle the things that we can't, for starters. If we didn't have a publisher, we definitely wouldn't have been here. They've done an awesome job of setting up the booths and organising all the contacts, interviews and things like that. Yeah, they're really strong on the marketing side, for sure.
Yeah, and I think you can't overstate how important money is.
Yeah.
Just being able to work full time on this game is the big one, right?
Accelerated the production very, very much.
Yeah, but but you need to, if you're looking at a publisher, you need to look at what you want to fill. You know, if you've got the money and you're happy to work on your own and develop it to completion, and then you can go out there and you can just get a publishing deal. It's just for marketing. You know, like our publishers supported us with marketing, but also QA and localization, like all these sorts of things you don't really think about.
I guess even down to as well, like the developer or the UDN thing as well. That's not something we wouldn't have been able to do without a publisher.
We didn't have to think about it. Yeah, it's because your publisher is your partner. You're not. You don't work for them. You work together. So, and that's pick your publisher, wisely or whatever. So, I mean, don't sign with a publisher if they're the only publisher and they're going to offer you a bad deal. Just, you want to find a partner.
Sorry, on that as well. When it comes to the things that a publisher can offer, is that something that is kind of talked about at length? Because like you have got, as you said, publishers that do just provide publishing, but then you've also got publishers that provide QA and marketing and all that. Is that part of the bigger conversation, or is something that's been offered right from the get-go?
Yeah, it's definitely what you sort of talk about in your first few meetings. So, it's what they can bring to the table.
And what you can bring to the table too.
Hopefully a game.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think we might wrap up. Thank you all so much for coming. Really appreciate it. Big claps for the boys.
Clap for the audience too.
Big thank you to PAX for having us. Are you guys on Steam?
Yeah, Steam, Epic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wish list, please.
There we go. Thank you so much for coming. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you.